Welcome back to Pac-Manufactured, a series all about Pac-Man clones. In this episode we're looking at Petscii Pac Man, developed by Dinasours and released for the Commodore 64 in 2022. Now, this is a Pac-Man clone that attempts to run entirely within Commodore BASIC, using the ASCII characters, which is an interesting limitation to force on yourself to make a Pac-Man clone with. But for the most part they succeed. So yeah, it's the standard Pac-Man setup. It's just that things have been sort of squished into a horizontal display because, yeah, it's a 4x3 computer display. And as a result, it means that the maze kind of feels like it's rotated on its side 90 degrees, but you do still have the teleporters on the left and right hand side of the screen. And they do work. They work fine. Basically, all the mechanics are here and they work correctly. You can obviously eat pills. You've got power pills to turn the tides and allow you to eat the ghosts. There are 4 ghosts which will hunt you throughout the maze, and their AI is pretty aggressive, so it's a fair old challenge, this. And you do also have the bonus fruit pickups, which will randomly appear in the middle of the stage as well. So yeah, it's all here. You know, the setup for a Pac-Man game is all completely present and accounted for. It's just working within Commodore BASIC, which is a really impressive feat to be able to make a Pac-Man clone work within this limitation using Petscii characters. But there is a big issue, and it is the thing that really spoils it, unfortunately, and it is the fact that you can turn into any wall at any given time and completely stop your movement down the corridors, which is something I absolutely despise, and this has a real problem with it. So yeah, I don't know how to describe it other than normally in a Pac-Man game you will always be moving down the corridors, and even if you're holding left and right, you will only turn left and right when you reach a junction. This doesn't have that at all, so when you're moving down the corridor and you press left, you will just turn left into a wall and stop in your tracks, and it feels horrendous. You're constantly doing it because the way I want to naturally play Pac-Man is by preempting my turns into the junction by holding, you know, the direction as I'm going down the corridor. So when I get to the junction, it will automatically move in that direction, which is just a natural way to play Pac-Man, and it's just how I move around the maze, and it's always been the way I sort of play it. But in this, you can't do that. You absolutely have to be moving in the directions the moment you reach the junctions. You can't preempt the movement by holding it whilst you're going down the corridors, because you will just turn into a wall and stop. And as a result, you'll die. You'll get caught by ghosts because you'll be stopping in your tracks and giving them an opportunity to go and get you. So it feels horrible. I hate it. It's one of my pet peeves with a lot of these Pac-Man clones, and this unfortunately has it, which is a real shame because the rest of the mechanics and the whole setup is very much there. It's Pac-Man but working within Commodore BASIC, which is incredible. Like, that's an amazing feat to be able to develop something just using the ASCII characters in Commodore BASIC. But unfortunately, because of those control issues, the whole thing feels really unresponsive and clunky and just really frustrating every time you turn into a wall and then a ghost, you know, comes up on you really quickly because you're not moving in the corridor the way you'd expect it to because you're so used to playing Pac-Man. This is probably a me problem. I'm sure you can get used to it, but unfortunately, it's a real barrier for me enjoying this Pac-Man clone, and as a result, I just can't recommend this one because I think if you're a Pac-Man player, you will preempt those turns the way I do by holding the direction before you get to the junction, and you can't do that in this. You will turn into a wall, you will stop, and you will die, and it is super frustrating, and as a result, I just cannot recommend this Pac-Man clone.